Have I been using watercolour the wrong way all this time? According to some of the masters of watercolour, I have, or maybe you have too, and since they are indeed the masters who helped to elevate the status of watercolour to a creative medium that rivaled oil, well, I think they will have a word of wisdom or two for us. But what can we bring home from their teachings to improve our watercolour journey, and what is really not that important? Well, we'll be having a look at this today. By the way, my name is Fiona Di Pinto. Welcome to Drawings in a Drawer. If you're new to this channel, we discuss everything watercolour and all the wonderful benefits art practice can bring, I'd say. So if that sounds like a journey you'd like to embark upon, be sure to click on that notification bell so you won't miss any of my weekly uploads. And now let's get into today's topic. According to watercolour purists, there are many things that I have been doing wrong in my watercolour practice that basically make my paintings no longer watercolour paintings because I use white mediums like gouache or acrylic to create the highlights, or maybe I use too many layers, hence I lost the transparency of the medium in certain areas. If I decided to use ink or metallic paints like I often do, well, that would be almost unforgivable, I think. There are to this day watercolour societies that will not accept members or paintings that are not carried out in the so-called purist manner. So no use of anything but watercolour, possibly not too many layers and not too many colours, and absolutely only the white of the paper to act as your highlight, your lightest value, your highest white. I am in no way, shape or form claiming to be an artist here or an art expert. I am just a person who's sharing her knowledge and her passion, so don't bash me in the comments. Allow me to skip to Joseph Mallard or Maillard, William Turner, who was the artist who raised the status of watercolour to that of oils. He seems to be a purist with some exceptions. Apparently, he painted on toned parcel paper, as they did not make watercolour paper like the kind we have today. The only white he used was that of his paper. His beautiful watercolour pieces are full of his fingerprints because he used his fingertips to move colour, the edge of a fingernail to scratch out a detail. I always love hearing about this kind of story. It just makes it almost like adding to the painting, knowing that there's little stories behind it. Apparently, Turner used some of the most opaque watercolours, or the more opaque watercolours. I don't know, maybe they contain some white, I'm not sure. So he wasn't a purist in the strictest sense of the word. His technical skills in watercolour are exquisite, they're exceptional. So what should we be learning from him and the purists? Are we cheating? Because I am not doing watercolour according to some, but I am still calling it watercolour. The idea for this video came from the fact that I've had these Artex acrylic markers sitting around waiting to be tested for a while now. I'm not that good with markers. I'd seen these around YouTube and the internet, probably you have too. But then I thought I could test them by making work that's a little bit more mixed media and trying the purist method. At the same time, as much as it pains me to give up my white gouache highlights, especially in the eyes, and I want to see where the faults and virtues lie in one method or intellectual tradition compared to the other one. I tried the markers on one of my son's sketches and they feel a lot like Posca pens to me, so I thought that the best approach would be to use them for added details and just to add a bit of contrast to the transparency of the watercolour that the purists so strongly wanted to protect. On the other hand, the next painting is going to be done in pure purist fashion, not only using only primary colours, in this case Chinese red, lemon yellow and Prussian blue, also using fewer layers than I would usually use, but of course I had to give up my beloved white, so if there's any white that's left, that's only the white of the paper. If you're still watching, allow me to take a brief moment to remind you I have an amazing art community. So if you think you need to pick up sketching and painting again, would like to hone your skills and would love to do so with like-minded people with live sessions several times a month, then please don't hesitate any longer, because it might be just what you need to get unstuck in more ways than one. So make sure to check the links in the description box. Right off the bat, I have to say that I do immediately understand where the purists are coming from. Anything that gets in the way of watercolour can detract from its beauty. I don't need any complicated technical explanation to see that. I just have to look at my paintings created with a more limited palette and no opaque paints whatsoever to see that watercolour shines on its own, it glows, it really doesn't need anything else. The purists are almost warning us, you will get distracted by other shiny art supplies, we get that, but tread carefully. I do see the benefits in using only pure watercolour, but that won't stop me from using white gouache and highlights, in my portrait's eyes. Using the acrylic markers was a fun experience, and you will see to a certain extent. You can use a brush to blend them slightly, but the paint dries quite fast as it does with acrylics, so I can probably see these are being more suitable not to use as if they were water soluble and literally just to add opaque elements to a piece to make them more interesting, like adding patterns, for example. We will feel the pull towards more opaque mediums. I sometimes miss them and would like to give gouache, for example, a proper try. But officially, even when I think I am doing a watercolour painting, unless I don't use any white at all, which is extremely rare, then according to the purists, I have created a mixed media piece and not a watercolour. And that's okay with me because these are just names. I just think when you stick to only 3 colours, the colour harmony in the piece is just something else. I mean, just look at that. That's not even finished yet, but as you can see, by using only 3 colours, I've got all the range of colours that I need in there, but they work so well together. The look is so cohesive in these 2 pieces. The colours just make the portrait look like it's more alive to me, like it's more luminous, I would say, compared to when I mix more colours. I think this was mostly primary colours as well. Maybe had something else in, I'm not sure. What I take away from this comparison is what I've actually been doing in my art more and more recently, and that is to limit the amount of noise. I have become a minimalist in watercolour, and I don't know how long that's going to last. It might just be a spell. But to me, the difference is so massive that I don't see why I shouldn't experiment with as little as possible. So if you're starting out in watercolour, for example, I would advise you to start with only 3 primary colours, because you'll spend less and automatically learn more about colour theory, because you'll have to mix your own colours and they will look beautiful. I would tell you to preserve the white of the paper for your highlights, because that will teach you about water control. So there are so many positives to painting more towards a purist mindset. But still, we are here to have fun, and there are no rules, fortunately. So my school of thought is probably the same as yours, and that is to whatever you have fun with, do it. And whatever keeps you making art, do it, because that's the most important thing of all. And of course, it's also a good idea to start off with a more kind of purist approach and then add in your mixed media elements later on, so you won't ruin the transparency and the luminosity of watercolour. Anyway, that is all from me for today. Thank you so much for being here this week again. Thank you if you're new. I love reading the comments section, so please leave a comment below, and I will see you all next Sunday. Bye for now.